Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today it is on March 8th, 2024. It's on Friday and sunny. How do you like Friday? Do you have a work or a school today? Or have you already finished working or studying? Or have you got a day off today? Are you excited for the weekends? Do you have a plan for the weekends? Or do you have no plan? Are you going to spend the weekends as usual? It depends on you. It hinges on you. It's all up to you. It's dependent on you. Even though it's on weekend, the accommodation fee was reasonable, so I soon booked a room at the hotel. Even though it was on weekend, the accommodation fee was the same, so I soon booked a room at the hotel. Although it was on weekend, the accommodation fee was the same, so I soon booked a room. Even though it was on weekend, the accommodation fee was the same, so I soon booked a room of the hotel. Even though typhoon was approaching, the festival took place. Although typhoon was approaching, the festival was held. Although it was raining so heavily, we enjoyed playing soccer. Though it was raining so heavily, we enjoyed playing soccer. Even though it was raining heavily, we enjoyed playing soccer. We don't play soccer just because it's raining. I don't study just because it is on weekends. Even though I was exhausted, I forced myself to get up in the morning. Even though I was exhausted, I forced myself to get up in the morning. I compelled myself to get up. I obliged myself to get up. I compelled myself to get up. It was snowing so heavily. We enjoyed playing outside regardless. It was so cold in the middle of the winter, but I found some surfers surfing on the ocean regardless. It was very early morning. There were already many tourists swimming at the sea, in the sea, regardless. It was early morning, but I found many tourists enjoying themselves at the beach, regardless. Hmm. Exhausted as I was, I squeezed out every bit of my energy to finish the task. Exhausted as I was, I squeezed out every bit of my energy to finish the job. So heavily as it was snowing, we enjoyed playing outside. So heavily as it was raining, we enjoyed playing soccer. So early as it was, I found some people already enjoying in the sea. So cold as it was, I found some people surfing on the ocean. Very early as it was, there were already many tourists enjoying themselves at the beach. The accommodation fee usually costs twofold or threefold on weekends, but they were already sold out regardless. The accommodation fees of the hotel are usually twofold or threefold on weekends, but all of them were already sold out on the month regardless. The accommodation fee of the hotel are usually three or fourfold on weekends. All of the rooms on weekends in the month were already sold out, booked, reserved, regardless. The room charges of the hotel usually two or threefold on weekends. However, all of the rooms on weekends were sold out regardless. Room charges of the hotel on weekends are usually three or fourfold. However, all of the rooms in the month were sold out regardless. Room charges of the hotel on weekends are usually three or fourfold. Nevertheless, all of the rooms on weekends in the month were booked regardless, 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 regardless of, as long as 2 hour wait time. My friend invited me to wait for such a long time in front of the attraction. Regardless of 2 hour wait time at the attraction, I used to wait, but I can't do that any longer. I can no longer do that. It read 2 hours of wait time at the electrical board in front of the attraction. We waited regardless because we really wanted to enjoy and experience the attraction. Actually, the attraction was worth waiting for 2 hours. It read 2 hours of wait time on the electrical board set up in front of the attraction. We waited regardless. The parking fee per 1 hour was 1,000 yen. We parked our car there regardless because there was no choice. There was no other choice. There was no option but to park our car there. The parking fee for 30 minutes, every 30 minutes, was 1,500 yen. However, we parked our car there, regardless, because there was no option but to park our car there. There was no selection but to park our car there. We were surprised at the charge later though. I didn't feel like going to the party, but I took part in that, regardless. To keep the good relationship with my coworkers. I didn't feel like joining the party after work, but I did regardless, with a view to keep good relationship with them. With a view to keeping a good relationship with colleagues. Room charges are usually twice or 3 times more expensive than on weekdays. However, some people stay on weekends regardless, because weekends are the only day offs they can have. For most people. Room charges are usually twice or 3 times as expensive. However, some people stay on weekends regardless, because most or many people only have day offs on weekends. Regardless of heavy rain, we enjoy playing soccer. regardless of threefold price of the accommodation. We stayed there to take advantage of the best location from the venue. I usually study every day, regardless of weekends or weekdays. I usually study every day, regardless of weekends. There were some students in my school who got presents almost every week, regardless of normal days. There were some students in my elementary school who got presents regardless of normal days frequently. There were some rich students in my elementary school who got presents so frequently, regardless of normal days. In spite of normal days, despite normal days. There was little hope that the student would pass the examination, but he tried to do his best regardless. There was little hope for him to pass the examination, but he did his best regardless. There was no hope that he would succeed in the business. However, he did his best regardless, ended up succeeding in the business thoroughly. There was no decisive evidence to convict him guilty. However, he was found guilty regardless. There was no evidence showing him as the criminal. However, he was suspected of that in regardless. There was little hope for the entrepreneur to succeed in the business. However, he succeeded regardless. There was as little hope as zero to succeed in the business. However, he succeeded and made a tremendous fortune regardless. There was as a little possibility to succeed in the business as 0%. He did his best and won the good luck regardless. There was little hope for the entrepreneur to succeed in the business, but he challenged it. regardless. There was little hope for the entrepreneur to succeed in the business, but he challenged it regardless. There was almost no possibility that the entrepreneur would succeed in the business. However, he tried and challenged regardless. There was as little hope as 0% in the business. The entrepreneur did his best, ruthlessly, regardless, regardless, regardless. Regardless. There was little hope for the student to pass the national examination on that at that time. He challenged it and passed it regardless. It was very early morning. However, there were many tourists enjoying themselves at the beach regardless. It was in the middle of midnight. Nevertheless, we went to a restaurant regardless. It was in the middle of midnight, like 2 o'clock a.m. We got into traffic jam regardless. Hmm. Hmm. It was in the end of the year. However, the flight tickets to the destination were cheap, regardless, about 10 years ago. So, as soon as I found the cheap ticket to the destination, I cashed at it and bought it. Hmm. Hmm. It was at 2 o'clock a.m. However, there was a traffic jam, regardless. It was at 2 o'clock a.m. on the road when we passed there. However, we got into traffic jam regardless. It was 2 o'clock a.m. Nevertheless, we got into traffic jam regardless. Regardless of 2 o'clock a.m., we got into the traffic jam on the road. I wondered what was happening to Tokyo. Mm. Mm. It was forecasted as rainy on the day. However, it turned sunny on the day, regardless. 99% of the questionnaire respondents answered in favor of the policy. 99% of the questionnaire respondents answered against the notorious policy. However, it was passed into law, regardless. 99% of the respondents answered against the notorious bill, but it was passed into law, regardless. Regardless of bad reputation of the bill from the respondents, it was passed into law. Typhoon was approaching. However, the festival was held. Regardless. Typhoon was approaching. However, the festival was held. Regardless. But the patient was told not to take a lot of sugar from a doctor. However, she did. She couldn't resist regardless. The patient was told not to have a tense exercise for a time being. However, he did. Regardless. The patient was told not to have aggressive exercise for a time being until his disease was cured completely. However, he did regardless. The patient was told not to have a tenth exercise until his disease was cured completely. However, he did regardless. The patient was told not to have a tenth exercise until his disease was completely treated. However, he did regardless. I arrived at home at 11:30 p.m. However, my family was waiting for me to eat dinner together, regardless. I got home at 11:30 p.m. However, my family had been waiting for me to eat dinner together, regardless. Regardless of late time, my family had been waiting for me until I got home at 11:30. In spite of late time, at 11:30 p.m., my family had been waiting for me until I got there. Despite a late time at 11:30 a.m., my family had been waiting for me until I got there. Regardless of a lot of claims from the customers, the company did not improve the situation at all. In spite of a lot of claims from the customers, the company did not improve the environment. Despite a lot of claims from the customers, the company did not hold a press conference to give apologies. Despite the advisory from the ministry, the company did not try to improve the situation. In spite of advisory from the ministry, the company did not try to improve the environment. Regardless of the advisory from the ministry, the company did not work on improving the environment. Regardless of heavy rain, we enjoyed playing soccer. In spite of heavy rain, we enjoyed soccer. Despite heavy rain, we enjoyed soccer. Regardless of a lot of criticism from the citizens, the notorious bill was passed into law. Despite a lot of criticisms and against, the notorious bill was passed into law. In spite of a lot of criticisms from the citizens, the notorious bill was passed into law. Regardless of a lot of criticism from the citizens, the bill was passed into law. I took a cup of coffee in the morning. However, it did not work regardless. I drank a cup of coffee. However, it did not work and helped me to concentrate on my study regardless. I drink coffee almost every day. However, it does not work sometimes regardless. I drink a cup of coffee as a strategy to keep my concentration level. However, it sometimes does not work regardless. Regardless of the caffeine I took from the coffee, I still felt I still felt sleepy regardless. In spite of the caffeine I intook from the coffee, I still felt sleepy regardless. In spite of the caffeine I took from the coffee, I still felt sleepy, drowsiness. Despite the caffeine I took from a cup of coffee in the morning, I still felt sleepy. I still felt sleepy. Regardless of the caffeine I took from the cup of coffee, I still felt sleepy. In spite of the caffeine I took from the coffee, I still felt sleepy. Despite the caffeine I intook from a cup of coffee, I still felt sleepy. Too spicy as the curry was, the person sitting next to me was eating it casually, with no problems at all. Very spicy as the curry was, the person sitting next to me was eating it with no problems at all. The beautiful sound played by the pianist was so much that I cried. The sound played by the violinist was beautiful enough to make me cry. The messages issued by the baseball player was courageous enough to make me have motivation. The messages left by the famous figure were courageous, courageous enough to make me have motivation. Some messages left by famous figures in the past as are very good, enough to make me have motivation. My friend drove so fast enough to make me have motion sick. My friend drove so My friend drove fast enough to make me motion sick, make me have motion sick. My friend drove his car fast enough to make me motion sick. My friend drove his car so fast as to make me have motion sick. My friend drove his car fast enough to make me have motion sick. My friend drove his car fast enough to make me have motion sick. My friend drove his car so fast as to make me have motion sick. My friend drove his car fast enough to make me have motion sick. I will leave my house early enough to be able to get to the destination 30 minutes before the opening time. I will get up early in the morning tomorrow, enough to be able to get to the destination in time. I will leave my house early enough to get to the destination 30 minutes before the opening time. I used to study long enough to get perfect score on the test. I used to study long enough to get perfect score on the test. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to be able to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the championship. The pianist practiced playing the piano long enough to win the award. The employee worked hard enough to get promotion. The new employee worked so hard as to get promotion. The employee worked hard enough to be promoted to the section-in-chief. The employee worked hard enough to get promoted to the general manager. The employee worked hard enough to be promoted to the section-in-chief. The student studied hard enough to pass the national examination at the earliest age ever. The student studied hard enough to pass examination. The student studied so hard as to pass examination. The student studied so hard as to win the award. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination of the university for the first time of the high school. For the high school. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied so hard as to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination of the university. The student studied the student studied hard enough. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough to pass the national examination. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination of the university. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The employee worked hard enough to get promoted to the general manager. The employee worked hard enough to get promoted to the executive member. The researcher worked hard enough to develop the semiconductor. The researcher worked so hard as to invent the semiconductor. The company worked hard enough to get back the confidence from the customers. The company worked so hard as to get back the confidence from the customers. The company worked hard enough. The company worked hard enough. The company worked hard enough to get back the reliance from the customers. I woke up early enough to avoid traffic congestion in the morning. I left my house early enough to avoid traffic congestion. I left my house early enough to avoid traffic congestion. The food fighter ate a lot enough to make me surprised. The employee brought the tasks to an end so fast as to make everybody surprised. The employee dealt with a pile of tasks so fast as to make everybody surprised. The employee brought a pile of tasks to an end quickly enough to make everybody surprised. We ought to leave the hotel early enough to get to the destination in time. We ought to leave the hotel early enough to be able to get to the destination in time. We ought to leave our hotel early enough to get to the destination in time. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood houses. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood houses. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood houses. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood cars. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood cars, houses, and other objects. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood cars. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flood cars. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away container, roof. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away blanket. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off warehouses from coast to coast. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a storehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away the rooftop. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off the warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away the warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away the warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away the warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of a typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off a warehouse. Blow away. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of the typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of the typhoon was strong enough to blow off a warehouse. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination. The student studied hard enough. The student studied hard enough to pass the entrance examination of the university. The student studied hard enough to pass entrance examination. straight. I sometimes arrive at the office early enough to be the first at the office. I sometimes arrive at the destination early enough to be first. I sometimes reach my office early enough to be the first. The temperature was cold enough to freeze water. The temperature was cold enough to freeze puddles. The temperature decreased so low enough to freeze puddles. The temperature decreased low enough to freeze puddles. The temperature decreased low enough to freeze the puddles outside. The temperature decreased low enough. The temperature decreased low enough to freeze puddles. It is cold enough. It is cold enough to freeze puddles outside. It was cold enough. It was cold enough to freeze puddles outside this morning. It was cold enough to freeze puddles outside. It was cold enough. It was cold enough to freeze puddles outside. It was cold enough to freeze puddles outside. It was so cold as to freeze puddles outside. It was cold this morning enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles this morning. It was cold enough to freeze puddles this morning. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles this morning. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. It was cold enough to freeze puddles. He drank many bottles of wine, enough to be carried away. He drank many bottles of beer, enough to be carried away. He drank many bottles of wine, enough to beside himself. He drank many cans of sake, enough to be beside himself. He drank many cups of sake, enough to be carried away. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow away a warehouse. The power of typhoon was strong enough to blow off a blanket. The power of the typhoon was strong enough to blow off a warehouse. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flow cars. The power of tsunami was strong enough to flow houses and cars. While I was taking a shower, my friend seems to have visited me. While I was taking a shower, my friend seems to have called on me. Hello, Professor. While you were on business trip, your client visited us. Excuse me, would you mind taking care of my pet dog while I'm on a trip? Excuse me, I was wondering if you could take care of my pet dog while I'm on a business trip. I was wondering if I could use your comb. I was wondering if I could use your comb. I was wondering if you could take care of my pet dog. I was wondering if you could take care of my pet dog while I'm in a trip, while I'm on a trip to Hokkaido. I was wondering if you could take care of my pet dog while I'm on a business trip to Hokkaido. This time tomorrow, I'll be studying. This time tomorrow, I'll be driving to the destination. This time tomorrow, I will be driving my car. This time tomorrow, I will be still sleeping. This time tomorrow, I'll be studying. I'll be preparing for the project this time tomorrow. 7 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, I will be watching the TV. 7 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, I will be watching the video. We will be soon departing for somewhere. We will be soon arriving at the international airport. Please fasten your seatbelt. We will be soon departing for Tokyo. Thank you. We will be starting so soon. We will be departing for the destination anytime soon. Don't forget to fasten your seatbelt, please. Thank you. We will be departing for the destination. We will be landing the airport sooner. We will be landing on the international airport. We will be landing on the international airport. We will be landing on the international airport. The train will be departing soon. The train will be departing soon. We will be arriving at the destination soon. We will be arriving at the destination in about 30 minutes. The student will be studying until he is stopped by his teacher at school, as usual, I guess. I guess he will be studying until he is stopped by his teacher. The student will be studying until he is stopped by his teacher. We will be enjoying attractions until it closes. We will be enjoying the attractions in the amusement park until it closes. It closes. We will be enjoying attractions as much as possible until it closes. We will be enjoying attractions until it closes. We will be enjoying as many attractions as possible till it closes at maybe 9 o'clock p.m. I usually prepare for anything half much, half as much again as others, so that I won't make a mistake. In order that I won't make a mistake. I usually take twice as long as others for preparation, so that I can become average. In order that I can become average, I usually take twice or three times as long as others for preparation, so that I can become average. In order that I can become average, I usually take twice or three times as long as others for preparation, in order I can become average, so that I can become average. Living in an urban city is good in that it is convenient. Living in an urban city is good in that it is convenient. Living in an urban city is good in that there are many shops, facilities, entertainments, and so on. Living in a countryside is good in that everything is cheaper and spacious. Living in the countryside is good in that we can rent a spacious room for cheaper prices. Living in the countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room for the same price as the one paid for narrow apartment room in urban cities. Living in the countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room for the same price as the one paid for smaller size apartment room in urban cities. Living in a countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious apartment room for the same price as the one paid for smaller apartment in urban cities. Living in a countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room than urban cities for the same price. Living in a countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room for the same price compared to the urban cities. Living in a countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room than urban cities for the same price. Living in a countryside is good in that we can rent a more spacious room than urban cities for the same price. My itinerary is well organized in that we can get to the destination on foot from our hotel. My itinerary is efficient and convenient in that it is all on weekdays. The itinerary is well organized in that all of the schedules are on weekdays. The tour is convenient in that every tour spot will be visited by bus. The tour is very efficient in that we can go to the tour spots by bus. Many people find urban cities attractive in that there are many entertainment shops and so on. Many people might find urban cities attractive in that there are many shops. Many people might find urban cities attractive, appealing, in that there are many shops, entertainments, and so on. Some people might find those with a qualification smart, in that it is difficult to pass examination. Some people might find those with a qualification smart, in that passing the examination is difficult. Mm. The hotel is very convenient in that it is located close to the destination. The hotel is very convenient in that it is located close to the station. The hotel is very convenient in that it is located close to the train station. The hotel is very convenient in that it is situated next to the train station. The hotel is very convenient in that it is sited next to the train station. Hmm. I decided not to take part in the track and field activity, in that I had to run. I decided not to take part in track and field activity club, track and field club, in that I had to run. Working on YouTube videos might be suitable for me in that I can work on my own without interference with others. Working on YouTube videos might be suitable for me in that I can work on my own without interference with others, without intervening in others. Intervention in others. Working on YouTube videos might be fit for me, in that I can work on my own without interference with others. Paying a visit to the tourist spot on weekdays is reasonable in that there are less tourists. Traveling on weekdays are reasonable, sensible in that there are less tourists, and accommodations and flight tickets are usually cheaper. Traveling on weekdays are sensible in that many services are cheaper and less crowded. Traveling on weekdays are sensible in that many services are usually cheaper. Besides, there are fewer tourists. I usually take twice or three times as long as others for preparation. I usually take time twice or three times as long as others. I usually take time for preparation twice or three times as long as others. In case I should make a mistake, lest I should make a mistake, for fear I should make a mistake. I usually take time for preparation to threefold or fourfold as long as others, for fear that I should make a mistake. In case I should make a mistake, lest I should make a mistake, I usually take time threefold or fourfold longer than others. In case I should make a mistake, lest I should make a mistake, for fear I should make a mistake. I learned to escape to a higher ground as soon as tsunami warning is issued. We are educated to escape to a higher ground whenever earthquake or tsunami warning has been issued. We are educated to escape to a higher ground whenever tsunami warning has been issued. As soon as tsunami warning has been issued. The minute the tsunami warning has been issued, the instant the tsunami warning has been issued, the moment the tsunami warning has been issued, we are educated to escape to a higher ground the minute the tsunami warning has been issued. Despite the caution telling not to enter the facility, some tourists enter to take a nicer picture. Despite the caution on the board, the tourists entered, jumped off the fence and took pictures inside. Despite the caution on the board, the tourists jumped over the fence and took pictures inside, which was such a dangerous situation. Despite threefold the price of usual dates, the rich person bought it. Despite threefold the price of normal days, the tourist bought it. Despite threefold the price of the product, The rich person bought it. Despite threefold room charge of the hotel, some people stay there on weekends. Despite threefold room charge of the accommodation on weekends, some people stay there. Despite fourfold room charge of the of the accommodation, some people stay there to enjoy their limited holidays. Despite fourfold room charge of the hotel on weekends, we stayed there to make the most of our limited holidays. In spite of threefold the price of the room charge of the hotel on weekends, we stayed there. Regardless of threefold the room charge of the hotel on weekdays, on the weekend, we stayed there. In spite of threefold the room charge of the accommodation on weekends, we stayed there. Despite a lot of fortune, some people cannot feel happy. In spite of a lot of fortune, some people cannot have happiness. Regardless of a lot of money and fortune, some people cannot feel happy. Despite a lot of accomplishments, some people cannot feel happy. In spite of a lot of accomplishments, money, fortune, some people cannot feel happy. Regardless of a lot of accomplishments, money, fortune, some people are not satisfied with them. Despite 2 o'clock a.m., there was a traffic jam. In spite of 2 o'clock a.m., there was a traffic jam. Regardless of 2 o'clock a.m., there was traffic jam. Regardless of 2-hour wait time, we waited in the line. Regardless of 2-hour wait time, we decided to wait in the line to enjoy the attraction. And since I have few commitments on weekends, I usually free on weekends, so don't hesitate to invite me anytime. I usually have few appointments on weekends, so please invite me anytime. Endless commitment to something will be symbolizes that you are really into that. Endless commitment into something will be the feature that you are really interested in that. Please try to find something you can commit to forever. Please try to find the authentic one that you can commit to forever, for good, perpetually, permanently, everlastingly. Commitment, commitment. Don't forget the commitment that you give me back. You return 5,000 yen to me. Don't forget that. Don't forget the commitment that you will be the author. Don't forget your resolution that you will be an entrepreneur in 3 years. Sorry, I totally forgot the commitment with you. I was busy working on my work. Sorry, I totally forgot the important commitment with you. I was super busy working on the imminent problems. Commitment. Commitment. Appointment. Commitment. My commitment to English study is long enough to make a difference from others. My commitment to English study is long enough to make a difference between me and my acquaintances. My commitment to English study is long enough to create such a huge gap between me and my acquaintances in level. My commitment to English study is long enough to create huge gap in everything between me and my acquaintances. Commitment. Commitment to work, commitment to hobby, commitment to your resolution, commitment to what you have decided on the new year. Are you still following your commitment to what you have decided on the new year? Commitment to something. Try to find something you can commit to forever. When did I make the commitment? When did I make the commitment? Many people will make a commitment to achieve something on the new year, and most of them forget it as time passes. The politician made a commitment to abolish consumption tax. The politician made a commitment to do away with consumption tax. Consumption tax. The politician made a commitment as one of his manifests to abolish consumption tax. The politician made a commitment to do away with consumption tax. The politician made a commitment to abolish consumption tax. The politician made a commitment to work on abolishing consumption tax once he was appointed at the election. The politician made a commitment to work on abolishing consumption tax once he was appointed at the election. Unfortunately, I have zero commitment on next Sunday. Why don't you go there? Excuse me, I'd like to go to the amusement park with you on Sunday. Do you have an appointment? Do you have a commitment on the day? Unfortunately, the day next Sunday is filled with many commitments. If you are okay, after 10 o'clock p.m. we can go though. Of course it is closed. You had better take the medicine as you were told by your doctor. You are better off taking the medicine as you were told by your doctor. You had better assemble the furniture as it is instructed in the instruction. Although I followed as the car navigation explained, we arrived in the middle of nowhere because the car navigation was old. Although we followed the car navigation as it directed, we arrived at somewhere. We don't know. We stopped in the middle of nowhere. Although we followed the car navigation as it explained, we stopped in the middle of nowhere. We arrived in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere to go, nowhere to stay, nowhere to go, except for the convenience store in the middle of the mountain. Nowhere to shop, except for the one supermarket in the middle of the mountain. There was nowhere to fuel my car except for the one attached next to the service area. So we were obliged to fuel our car for very expensive prices. Commitment, 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 appointment, commitment, appointment, disrupt, disrupt, interrupt, disrupt, interrupt. Wow, your house is as immense as our school. Wow, your house looks as immense as our school. Wow, your house is as immense as our school. Wow, your house is as immense as amusement park. Wow, your house is as huge as a museum. Wow, your house is as immense as a museum. Immense, immense. His house was immense enough to make me misunderstood. Misunderstood. Makes me enough to make me misunderstand. A monument of the coach was erected in front of the school after his death. The monument of the baseball coach was erected in front of the school in honor of him after his death. Please be noble and do not wrongdoings. Wow, your house is as immense as our school. Wow, your house is as immense as our school. Wow, your house is as immense as our school. When was the monument created? When was the monument erected? When was the monument set up? When was the monument put? When was the monument put? When was the monument made? When was the monument put on there? When was the monument put there? A monument of his a monument of the baseball coach was erected in front of the school in honor of his accomplishments. In honor of his accomplishments. When was the school erected? When was the traffic board erected? When was the school erected? When was the building erected? When was the building erected? When was the building erected? I bowed deeply in honor of the boss. We bow each other in honor of each other. We bow 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 in honor of each other. In honor of each other. A strip of abalone is put on the envelope to show respect of the sender in honor of the recipient. A strip of abalone is put on the envelope to be in honor of the recipient and show respect for the recipient. To show the respect of the sender. Noble waltz. Have you played noble waltz? Noble. The daughter grew up to be noble. I want you to be noble without doing any wrongdoings. Noble, 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 noble person, noble, without doing any wrongdoings. I want you to be noble. I'd like you to be noble. I'd like you to be noble without doing any wrongdoings. Noble. Noble words. Noble person. Noble person. Noble. The noble person pleaded with not guilty. The noble person pleaded for not guilty. The noble person pleaded with the judge for not guilty. The noble person pleaded with the judge for not guilty. The noble person begged for not guilty. The noble person begged the judge for not guilty. The noble person pleaded with the judge for not guilty. The noble person pleaded with the judge for not guilty. Noble, 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 noble person, noble, noble, noble person, noble, noble. I'd like you to be noble. I'd like you to be noble. You need to be noble. And tell it as it is all the time. Don't hide anything. I want you to be noble, noble. I want you to be noble. And tell it as it is. And do not hide anything. Noble, 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 noble. noble, 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 noble. The daughter grew up to be noble, noble, be noble, and confess everything hidden behind. Be noble, be noble, and confess everything hidden behind. Noble. I want you to be noble and never do wrongdoings. I'd like you to be noble and never do wrongdoings. I want you to be noble and follow the rules. Noble, 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 noble. Are you a patriot of your country? Are you a patriot of your country? Patriotic holiday, patriotic holiday, patriotic holiday. National holiday. Patriot, patriot. Are you a patriot of the country? Are you a patriot of the country? The patriot emphasized domestic recovery first. The patriot insisted domestic recovery first. The patriot insisted domestic recovery. The patriot insisted the acceleration of domestic recovery. The patriot insisted that the government should prioritize the domestic recovery first. The patriot insisted that the government should accelerate the domestic recovery. The patriot insisted that the government should prioritize the domestic recovery first. The terminator told the driver to get down. The man told the driver to get down. The police officers ordered the driver to get down off the car. The person got down on his knees to be the same height as the kid. The teacher got down on her knees to scold the daughter with the same height. At the same height. Those sitting in the front were asked kindly to get down on their knees so that those sitting in the backstage could see the performance. The host of the event asked those in the front kindly to get down on their knees so that those in the back seat could see the performance. What did you pray for on the New Year? Can I ask what you prayed for on the New Year? Can I ask what you prayed for on New Year? Can I ask what you prayed for on the New Year? Do you prefer to sleep on your side or back or your stomach? Do you prefer to sleep on your side, stomach, or back? Do you prefer to sleep on your back, side, sideways, or stomach, front? Please get down off the car. Please get down from the car. Get down from the car immediately. Get down. The host of the event kindly asked those in the front to get down on their knees so that those in the back could see the performance. Get down from the car. Get down from the car. Get down from the train. Get down from the chair. Get down from the seats. I saw a tourist getting down from the bus, getting off from the bus. I saw some tourists getting down from the bus. I saw some tourists getting down the steps. I saw some tourists getting down the tourists. I saw some athletes training by getting up and down the stairs. I saw some athletes training by getting up and down the steps. I felt my soul floating in my hometown soon after arriving at the airport. Gradually, my soul caught up with my body. Can you understand what I mean? I felt my soul still floating in my hometown soon after arriving in the place. And gradually, my soul kept up with my body. And finally came together. Do you think our souls last forever? Do you think our souls last forever? Do you think our spirits last forever? Do you believe that our souls will last forever? The name of the deceased are engraved on the monument. The name of the deceased. The names of the deceased are engraved on the monument. The name of the deceased are engraved on the monument. The names of the deceased are carved on the monument. The stone monument is engraved with the names of the deceased. The stone monument is engraved with the names of the deceased. I'd like I wanted to take the opportunity to take a tour of the Supreme Court, but when I was there, it was under construction. Do you know where the Supreme Court is located? Do you know where the Supreme Court is situated? Do you know where the Supreme Court is sited? Unfortunately, when I visited Tokyo, the Supreme Court was under construction, so I could not take the tour. Have you been to the Imperial Palace? Imperial Palace is a famous spot for runners. As far as I know, the runner can keep running without stop because there is no traffic signals along the way, around. As far as I know, the outer circle of the Imperial Palace is famous spot for running because the runners can keep running without stopping because there is no traffic signals around. As far as I know, the outer circle of the Imperial Palace is a famous spot for runners because the runners can keep running without stop because there is no traffic signal. Have you ever judged at the Supreme Court? Have you ever been judged at the Supreme Court? Have you ever judged at the Supreme Court? Supreme Court, Supreme Court, Supreme Court. Supreme Goddess of the Sun. Supreme Goddess of the Sun. What do you think of the ban on smoking on the street? Are you for the bill? Are you for or against the bill? Are you for or against the bill? A demonstration is being held on the street, along the street, to protest against the notorious bill. A demonstration is being taking place along the avenue to protest against the evil bill. A demonstration is being held along the avenue to protest against the notorious bill. They are pushing for the abolition of the bill. They are calling for the abolition of the bill. A demonstration is being held along the avenue to protest against the notorious bill. The government is about to pass it into law. Pass it into law. Ban on international travel for him. Ban on international travel for some people. Ban on smoking. The patient violated the ban on smoking during his treatment, which worsened his symptoms. The patient violated the ban on smoking during the treatment. The patient violated the ban on smoking during the treatment, which lengthened his treatment term. Ban on international trip. Ban on going out. Ban on going out until 6 o'clock a.m. What do you want to be? What made you want to be a senator? Senate. House Speaker. House Speaker paid an emergency trip to the country to discuss the problems. The House Speaker made an emergency trip to the country to discuss the problems. Senator. What do you wanna? Why do you wanna be a senator? What made you wanna be a senator? What are the motives which made you wanna be a senator? What are the reasons why you wanna be a senator? Senator. Association consisting of senators. Association made up of senators. Organization made up of senators. Senator. Senator. Representative. House of Representatives. House of Representatives. House of Councillors. House of Councillors. House of Representatives. Lower party. Upper party. House of Representatives, House of Councillors. Ruling party, opposition party. Senator. As I was told to be neutral regarding the matter. We are told to remain neutral regarding the matter, in respect to the matter, in regard to the matter, with regard to the matter. Neutral position, neutral situation, neutral status, neutral position. The country remains neutral about the problem. The country stays neutral about the problem. The country stays neutral about the problem. The country keeps neutral about the problem. The country keeps neutral about the problem. The country remained neutral about the problem. The country remained neutral about the problem. The country remained neutral about the problem. neutral, neutral. Set the car neutral. The police officer told the driver to set the car neutral to be pulled to the destination. And the police officer told the driver to set the car neutral so that the car could be pulled. The police officer told the driver to set the car neutral so that the car could be pulled. Neutral, 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 neutral. Please make sure that your car is neutral. Please make sure that your car is set as neutral. Neutral. I prefer bitter coffee. I prefer bitter coffee to sweetened one. I prefer bitter coffee to sweetened coffee. I prefer bitter to sweetened coffee. Bitter. Bitter situation. Bitter. Bitter controversy, bitter fight, bitter argument, bitter. Bitter controversy, bitter argument, bitter quarrel, bitter argument. I witnessed bitter argument between the couple. We sometimes come across bitter argument between couples. I sometimes run into intense and bitter quarrel between couples or friends. Bitter, bitter, bitter discussion, bitter discussion, bitter discussion between the two couples. Bitter discussion between the couple. Bitter discussion between the couple. Bitter quarrel between the couple. Bitter quarrel between the couple. Bitter controversy between the couple. Bitter controversy between the two countries. Bitter. I prefer bitter to sweetened coffee. I prefer bitter to sweetened coffee. I prefer to drink bitter rather than to drink a sweetened coffee. Bitter controversy, bitter controversy, bitter, bitter, bitter. Bitter controversy, bitter controversy, bitter controversy, bitter controversy, bitter controversy, controversy, bitter controversy, controversy, bitter controversy, bitter controversy, bitter quarrel, bitter fight, bitter controversy, bitter quarrel, bitter argument, bitter controversy, bitter quarrel, bitter quarrel, bitter quarrel, bitter controversy, 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 bitter, 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 bitter controversy. I'm in a difficult situation. I've been in a serious situation since I entered the company. I have been in a depressed situation since I entered the company. I had been in a serious depressed situation since I entered the company until I quit the job. I was in a happy situation for only 5 or 10 minutes after I hit a home run. I was in a happy situation only for 5 or 10 minutes while I was eating lunch. I'm in a happy situation only for 10 to 15 minutes a day, only when I was eating lunch. I am usually in a happy situation for only 10 to 15 minutes while I'm eating lunch in a day. I'm only in a glad situation for only 10 to 15 minutes while I'm eating lunch in a day. I'm only in a happy situation for only 10 to 20 minutes in a day while I'm eating lunch. And we were in a serious situation this time yesterday. We were in a serious situation this time yesterday. I was in a bedridden situation this time last year. He was in a bedridden situation this time last year. We are in an imminent situation. We are in an imminent situation. We are in a dangerous situation. We are in a difficult situation. We are in a predicament situation. We are in a happy situation. Let me in a happy situation forever. Let me in a happy situation forever. Put me in a happy situation. Put me in a happy situation forever, everlastingly, for good, eternally, perpetually, perpetually. The student will be studying all day long until she is stopped. The student will be studying until she is stopped all day long. Please try to find something you can devote yourself to all day long. Please try to find, strive to find, attempt to find, seek to find, look to find something you can devote yourself to all day long. Strive to find something you can devote yourself to all day long. Strive to find something that you can commit to all day long without stress. Try to find something you can commit to all day long without stress at all. Some stores are open to the public all day long, all week long, all month long, all year long. The convenience store is open to the public round the clock, around the clock, 24 hours, 24/7. The convenience store is open all day long, all night long, all week long, all month long, all year long. It's no wonder you are exhausted now. You have practiced playing the guitar all day long. It's no wonder you are exhausted. You have practiced playing the guitar all day long. It's no wonder you won a championship. You had practiced playing volleyball so hard all week long, every day, all day long, every day. It's no wonder you won the championship at the tournament. You worked hard on the practice all day long on a daily basis. The siren rang all day long. The siren rang all night long. The investigation lasted all night long. The state of emergency lasted all 2 weeks long. The state of emergency was extended all week long. The state of emergency lasted all month long. I can no longer run 100 meters within 13 seconds, maybe. I can no longer swim 1 kilometer. I can no longer run 100 meters within 13 seconds. I can no longer eat such amount of food. I can no longer climb the mountain. I can no longer reach the top of the mountain. I can no longer play the piece. I can no longer play the piece. I cannot play the piece anymore. I cannot play the piece any longer. Are you capable of calculating huge number as quickly as computer? Are you capable of calculating huge numbers as quickly as computer? Are you capable of calculating the numbers, huge numbers, like 1 million times 40,500,000 as quickly as computers? Are you capable of calculating huge numbers such as 40,500,000 times 40,600,000 as quickly as computers? I am no longer capable of lifting 6 kilograms of bench press. I am no longer capable of lifting 60 kilograms of bench press. Are you capable of calculating huge numbers as quickly as computers? Are you capable of calculating huge numbers as quickly as computers? The huge cruise ship is capable of housing as many as 8,000 passengers. The Patriot insisted that the government prioritize coping with economic disasters, domestic economic disasters. The Noble Patriot insisted that the government should give precedence to coping with domestic economy. The Noble Patriot insisted that the government should give priority to coping with domestic economy. The Noble Patriot insisted that the government should give priority to coping with the huge drop of economy. The Noble Patriot the Noble Patriot suggested. The Noble Patriot insisted that the government prioritize coping with the economic crisis. The Noble Patriot insisted that the government should cope with the economic crisis. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you.